That would be the Seven Nation Army. Lots of seven-themed things today. It's the 7th anniversary show of the Northland Sports Page. Again, we're with you every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon. Today we are live at Hoops Brewing. We got a crowd on hand. Dave Cook is blowing them kisses. I'm Brian Prudhomme. He's Dave Cook. Dave Hoops, of course, is here as well. It's his establishment after all. You got to love to see folks piling in on a Saturday morning.
We love it, and we really, really enjoy when we get to play the Fighting Hawks. I'm sorry,
right.
Because you guys travel so well, and you come on into our place, and it's great to see you. Thank you.
Well, and I wonder if it's magnetic for them because, of course, when it comes to the University of North Dakota, you see a lot of green, and when you come into hoops, your colors.
My colors are green and black, unlike some other people as well. Yeah, and they're my favorite colors.
So making them feel at home here at Hoops
Yes.
Brewing, it's certainly been a home for us over the 7 years of the show. Again, technically, and I don't even know if we talked to each other, the anniversary was Monday. It was November 4th of 17 that we took the airwaves for the first time.
Yeah, you've been up to your eyeballs with it at work. And
People think that all I do is this or public address announcing, games, what have you. I know that there are students at East that think I just sleep under the scores table and magically pop out when there's a game. No, I've got a day job, and it dominated my days this week.
Yep, and I tried to stay upright because we went to a couple places and swooned everywhere we were at. So that wasn't cool earlier in the week either. So, no, we did not talk on Monday, but, we're doing okay.
Absolutely. Happy anniversary to you as well. Speaking of staying upright, there are a lot of folks in our business community in the Northland that has kept this show upright for their 7 years. Let's pay homage to them once again.
All right, let's start with Mount Royal Bottle Shop, Brian, because I think that's one of the key sponsors this week. Tell us what's going on there.
Mount Royal Bottle Shop has a multitude of promotions going on in conjunction with our show, specifically for the 7th anniversary. This week, you will get 7% off all of your Hoops products in the store at Mount Royal Bottle Shop. And then Saturdays, your place to be is online via their website, MountRoyalBottleShop.org, their website, MountRoyalBottleShop.org. You get 10% off your Hoops products when you enter the online promo radio. They do like the online delivery concept. You can go into the store and say it as well on Saturdays. But again, their website, MountRoyalBottleShop.org, and use that promo code radio. 10% off delicious Hoops products. I continue to enjoy one right now.
We also are sponsored by Kohler Hyundai and Kohler Toyota. It is funny that you corrected me earlier. When my son dropped me off in a Hyundai, he's bought the Santa Cruz, loves it.
But if that's your one big mistake today, we've had microphones that decided to take the first part of the day off. I've talked like I had marbles in my mouth a couple times. Things happen.
Yeah, but you still got to hit the sponsor.
It's a 2-hour show. We'll do a make good, as they say.
Comfort Systems of Duluth, Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance, the Blackwoods Group, including their locations in Proctor and in Two Harbors, the location on London Road and Tavern on the Hill up by the schools. Stewart's Bite Sports and Trophies. Assisted Living Locators. You can reach them at www.assistedlivinglocators.org/Duluth. Kraus Heating and Cooling, your Carrier HVAC authorized dealer. Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, ABS Auto Solutions, Arola Architecture Studio, and where we're at, Hoops Brewing.
Hoops Brewing is absolutely where we're at. Kudos to all the fans of the University of North Dakota that have come in today. I don't know if they knew that they were going to get a live sports radio show as a little bit of a bonus, and I guess we'll find out.
Hopefully bonus.
I think for the most part, North Dakota fans are with us when it comes to Minnesota pro sports fandom. So hopefully hearing a lot about the Vikings, the Twins, the T-Wolves, and the Wild is not something that is disparaging to them.
Well, and in a pinch, we could talk a little Winnipeg Jets, too. I mean, they're a little bit closer, but the heck, half the team played here before.
And speaking of playing here, that's, of course, why the University of North Dakota fans are here. They had their way with the UMD Bulldogs last night. North Dakota continues to be a strength in the NCHC. Was also true in the WCHA days. The beat goes on for that team out of the University of North Dakota. Speaking of the beat going on, the NFL season is essentially in its second half.
Yeah.
You look at teams that are about to play their 9th game. If you haven't had your bye yet, you might be about to play your 10th. So we're well along, in many cases over halfway. Meanwhile, if you're the Minnesota Vikings, obviously you've played 8. This is game number 9. Thanks now to the 17-game length of the regular season. You can't do a true midterm unless you break in at halftime. When you've played 8.5 games, I guess we could. So we're going to do it right now. We're going to do a little bit of NFL midterm talk. We're going to talk about both conferences, the AFC and the NFC. We're going to talk a little bit about who's your MVP in the AFC, who's your MVP in the NFC. I know they don't give two, but we're going to. These are the NSP awards, not the NFL awards. We're going to talk about teams that have been your biggest surprise, teams that have been your biggest disappointment. Give a coach of the year maybe on each side. Just talk about what we've seen in general, because football's always entertaining, but I think this season has opened some eyes, dropped some jaws. Things happen that we didn't see.
Do we get to do an Anthony Young?
The player that's
Yeah.
guaranteeing you to lose a game?
No. The pitcher for the Mets. We always do the
Right, but the theme was Anthony Young lost every time he
Yeah.
took the mound. So you're looking for a player that guarantees you an L?
Yeah, my fantasy league.
Oh,
I
okay.
need
That's
another-
fair.
I need
You
another-
are 0 for the season, which
Yeah.
is impressive.
I need another guy who to get 4 points when he's supposed to get 12.
Just to paint the picture for you, we love Olympic medalist John Schuster, and John wasn't able to attend our draft this year, so he set up his auto draft as best he could. But it often took best player available. He took a wide receiver in the first 6 rounds, and as a result, changed his name to pick 6 ... wide receivers. His roster is terrible, and he's ahead of you.
Yeah, no doubt.
And
man.
Dave had the number 1 pick.
But my number 1 pick's been out the entire
That
year.
changes this weekend.
But Dave might have fell in love with the New York Jets way too early.
But I will say this. Dave Cook does not like the San Francisco 49ers at all. And when he had McCaffrey, he said, this will be perfect. My fantasy teams never do well. This will put a hex on San Francisco. I'm not
So
sure
far,
it did
so
that.
good.
I'm not sure it did that, but your fantasy team's not doing well.
So far,
Nailed
so
it.
good.
All
Yeah,
right.
Let's do it.
So let's start here. Let's start with your MVP in the AFC because I think, spoiler alert for my answer, I think we saw him on Thursday night. But go ahead.
There's no discussion. He has 2 interceptions. He has 10 more touchdowns than he did last year. Jackson he's godlike out there right now. What it might change, like I said, that defense can't win the Super Bowl, but that offense is winning games all by themselves, and it's fun to watch. I just really great. Like I like Jaden Daniels, obviously Rookie of the Year. We'll get there maybe, but he's like a baby Lamar, except he's got a lot better long arm.
Well, and he's got better receiving options, in my opinion, too.
And he's like half the weight.
I know that you guys can throw out some other. I took the low hang, but
No,
he's
I segue
great.
to it. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
So I'm gonna be just for
Who else should be in consideration, I
Just
think?
so I'm going to suggest the quarterback that does exactly the same thing Dave does, and his team's not very good because he hasn't played half the year. But bear with me for a second. Last year we talked about a team that might have been in the Super Bowl, could score at will, but their defense wasn't good enough. And then the quarterback went and got 64 concussions in a couple of weeks.
Tua?
Sat the year. But now when Tua's come back, guess what's happened? Miami starts
They
to
lost
score.
again.
Yeah, but Miami starts to score.
Those are such good answers. Dave Hoop says nothing. I say they lost.
Miami starts to score, and the AFC East is not a great conference. If all of a sudden all of a sudden they step on it a little bit because their quarterback is good, he's not the best player. That's not what we asked. We asked for most valuable, and if Miami comes back, he's the guy.
I want to give you 2 things based on that because you said the AFC East, I believe you said, is not a good conference. I'll correct it and say it's not a great division. But I think in the AFC East you could get another MVP candidate out of there because everybody thought with the number of Buffalo Bills receivers that departed that Josh Allen was going to have to do everything.
Yeah, that's true.
And not have a clue who we were going to throw it to. The Buffalo Bills look awfully good. Josh Allen, to me, has to be in that conversation.
He also only has 2 interceptions, and he's going to run for 12 touchdowns.
Right.
And yes, he's pulling a Mahomes. I'm the one that drafted Shakir in every draft before the season.
I have
because I'm
Keon
smart.
Coleman in every league I can find him in.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
I just felt like maybe that was going to be our Wes Welker or something like that in my vernacular. But I think that without Lamar continuing, this pace like Thursday, I've been talking about Josh as a kind of a dark horse.
Last thought on the AFC for me would be I'll go with one non-quarterback, and it's on Lamar's team. The reason Lamar is able to be so flexible and do so well, Derrick Henry found the fountain of youth in a way.
Did you like the way I threw something out there to stir it up a little bit? Like I actually believe in Tua.
I can appreciate
We can hear that.
What about the NFC? Because I think the MVP there is a little more difficult. There's been a lot of good players, a lot of good teams. I don't think there's far and away a great team. We can talk about Detroit. You even got to talk about Philadelphia. You might have to talk about the Vikings. I think eventually the Niners are going to be back in the mix. But usually when you talk about MVP players, it comes from somebody whose team is running away with things. There isn't anybody. I will certainly entertain the conversation behind Jared Goff, but that team has so many good players. I don't know if that's it. Where are you guys going in the NFC?
I'm going Barkley, and I like to.
That's the best acquisition of the offseason by far.
I'd like to put JJ in the discussion of the top 5 because until Chase went off so much, he is arguably the best receiver in the league. But Goff is beautiful with this completion streak.
Right, but you look at the last 2 wins, and I think he's been sub 200 yards.
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
This is really a good question because you're right.
Thank you.
Everything is so flat right now
Right.
in the NFC. Anybody?
You know what Dave Sinekin would tell you?
Well,
It's Jordan Love, isn't it?
I'm about to ask.
My
I was
God,
just
stop.
about to ask for a little history.
Yeah, right?
Right. Because you can make the argument that it's Jordan Love.
See, but I think you could easily make the argument against it, and you could really dumb it down, which in Packerland, hey, isn't that what they do when they
exactly
speak?
what they did.
But they play better record-wise when Malik Willis is playing.
Yep, because they dumbed it down.
Right.
When we go to Coach of the Year, however, we need to talk about Green Bay's guy.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
That is a thing. For
You can talk
sure.
about how far down the list he'd be.
The other guy though, and Dave brought him up earlier. You know, he's going to win Rookie of the Year, but if Washington comes from the dead, and they were the dead last year, they come from the dead and make the playoffs. Don't you at least have to give Daniel some consideration?
Well, I think you do, but let's go to Coach of the Year off of that then, because I'm going to tell you this right now. I had to Google to remind myself who the coach of the Washington Commanders is, and I'm still waiting to get the results. And I saw him quite a bit on the TV the last couple of weeks when I watched him, and yes, it's Dan Quinn. He's got to be up there. Something with guys named Dan. Dan Campbell's got to be up there. KOC's got to be up there. Appreciate you mentioning LaFleur if you're a Packer fan, but I think you're crazy on that one. He's
Absolutely
so far down
not.
that list.
No, because they were tied into a quarterback that we laughed about, but then he brought in the third-string quarterback,
No.
Tennessee. The third-string
Who
quarterback
cares?
from Tennessee.
Who cares?
He won. He won with a guy that
He was a
couldn't-
third quarterback that was drafted plenty high because supposedly had plenty of talent.
Yeah, he had plenty of talent and no experience. So they brought in a guy with
Let's
no experience.
name the guys that go to Tennessee to die. It's a long list.
Okay.
Historically,
They
the only-
brought in one of the quarterbacks who went to Tennessee to die.
Historically,
who had
that's
absolutely
what Tennessee
nothing.
does.
Great. They brought in a guy that had no experience in anything beyond this crazy run and shoot, and he won games with him. This is very much similar to what KOC did last year with Dobbs, except he only won 2 with him. Like, Willis is a non-NFL player if it wasn't for LaFleur creating an offense around him on the fly.
But I still think if you really look at it
I am
objectively
arguing for Green Bay.
in the
This
NFC,
hurts.
right? I was going to say, what is wrong with you? Because it makes no sense. I think if you really look at it in the NFC, the two Dans, Campbell and Quinn, KOC's in the equation.
Yes, he is.
I think you have to look at Kirk's guy in Atlanta because they've turned things around a great deal as well. If the 49ers stay above water, McCaffrey's back, and everybody's been hurt at some point, Shanny's still in the conversation.
Yep.
I'm taking most of the NFC before I take Matt LaFleur, and I'm taking my hatred of Green Bay out of the equation.
I think that the Coach of the Year comes out of the NFC North, and I think it's going to be
Dan Campbell.
or KOC.
Yeah.
If we win 11 games,
And
shouldn't
supposed to win 6. KOC
shouldn't
should.
it be KOC?
Well, yes, obviously, and they're going to win the November, and what's their record going to be at that point,
10.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
But the roster of the unknown, Dan Quinn with the Commanders, that's going to get a lot of attention.
Yeah,
It deserves it.
Everybody else, right now, if you look at the current standings, and if the season ended today, which people love to say, and you look at who the playoff teams would be, as many surprises as there have been in football, if you look at the NFC, most of the teams that would be playoff eligible today, you're going, yeah, I can see that, yeah, I can see that, yeah, I can see that. What's Washington doing here?
Yeah.
That's the one that you're going, really?
Right.
Because the NFC East was supposed to be all about Philly and Dallas, and Mike McCarthy is Mike McCarthy all over that team.
Well,
Yeah, that's why I think, though, at the end of the day, yes, they're coach, but I do think that you have to look at their quarterback.
All right, so let's go to Coach of the Year in the AFC. Andy Reid's going to be in consideration because, oh, by the way, they haven't lost. But if you just try to change it, where are you going?
I hate to say
I mean,
this, but-
I love D'Amico Ryans, but can Houston stay healthy enough to be a big deal?
How about now we go and talk about Buffalo's coach?
Yeah.
Because of all the things you guys said. I mean, the quarterback has been unworldly.
Sean McDermott.
Yep, the quarterback's been unworldly, but
I was letting him help think.
he's got a backup running back. He's got the kid from Kentucky now is his starting running back, and he was a 6th-round pick or whatever.
Is that the Davis kid?
Yep.
Yeah.
And they had no wide receivers to speak of, and they're still winning. And the offensive coordinator needs to get a hat tip, but the head coach, he just made, whatever out of Shinola.
I wouldn't be the guy to do it. I'm waiting for somebody to stick up for Mike Tomlin. Go ahead.
Well, he doesn't need it.
Exactly.
But this is hard to say, but there's a couple, new coaches that are going to get some mentions, especially if Denver makes the playoffs. And I don't want Peyton. Yeah,
Sean Payton.
I get it, but
Ugh.
look what he's doing with Knicks. Look what he's doing. And
Yeah.
and the Chargers are going to make the playoffs.
Harbaugh.
Yes, and there will be discussions here that we're kind of
I'll tell you
glossing
this.
over. Yeah.
I know you mentioned Denver, and I know you mentioned the Chargers. You said the Chargers will make the playoffs. If they do, I'm going to say the Broncos don't.
Well, I
There's
think
no
that's
way they both
fair.
do.
Exactly,
Yeah.
100%.
No way they both do.
But I just, I've been paying attention to that, and I'm a huge Oregon fan, so I kind of wanted Knicks to come here. I'm glad that we got the other JJ.
Oh, but didn't you hear Sean Payton? He buffaloed us and then going for McCarthy.
That's perfect though. But
Right.
he believed in Knicks like I believe in him, and that he's a serviceable quarterback.
Right.
I don't care for Peyton, but I'm just
That's the
acknowledging.
nicest FCC regulated way to say that ever. All right, biggest surprise and biggest disappointment. Let's we've got Dave Hoops with us, so let's start with the positives. Biggest surprise AFC, big surprise NFC. Dave Hoops, go first. And by the way, Minnesota leads Rutgers 6-0 at the moment, extra point pending. I had said Terps earlier, I forgot they already beat Maryland. It's Minnesota versus Rutgers. I didn't say it publicly, but it's Dave Hoops, I said it to you. Go
It's
ahead.
Minnesota versus Minnesota's JV because all the assistants
Minnesota's
are
new
head
quarterback
coaches,
versus Minnesota's old quarterback.
their offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, all Gophers.
AFC, I'm gonna stick with my Chargers thing because everybody thought that again Herbert would be obsolete. Now he's returning into the 300-yard guy. They're letting him throw the ball. I think they probably are going to make the playoffs. I think that's kind of a surprise because most of us thought they'd be a running team, and Harbaugh is Harbaugh. I don't really want.
Yeah, he
him
loves to run the football. 3rd and 13. Let's
Yeah.
run off tackle anyway.
Yeah, I think that they're kind of a surprise.
I would agree. And so rather than saying, yep, what Dave said, which I like to do on this show over 7 years, I'm going to go a different direction. Mine's going to sound like a low-hanging fruit, but my biggest surprise, frankly, is Buffalo with how dominant they are. Because, again, I go back to, well, what do they have? They have Josh Allen and a bunch of guys because Diggs got traded. Gabe Davis left. They've still got a pair of talented tight ends, but quarterbacks are great. When they have no one to throw to, they're not that great. Josh Allen is, dare I say, pulling a little bit of Aaron Rodgers. He's making household names out of guys that aren't household names. So for me, it's not a great division, Dave. You're right. The Jets, I'll get to them because they're probably going to be in my disappointment category.
I might too.
And the Dolphins, I love that you believe in Tua. I think we all do when he's on the field. How often is that?
No.
So the AFC East isn't very good. But Buffalo, not just being dominant in that division, but being dominant in this conference, to me surprised me because I believed in Tua as much as you did. I think I put Miami in the Super Bowl back on our preview show. Go ahead.
Here's where I'm going with Tomlin. Because last year, and I know this last year, and
They're brutal with a good record, by the way.
which is why the surprise, right?
And they play Washington, right, this weekend?
Yes, they do.
That's a big test. We'll see.
So Cleveland last year was in the playoffs. Granted, they've absolutely cratered. Cincinnati, top-end team. We've talked about Baltimore being the super team. Where does Pittsburgh fit in with no quarterback? You know, Russ was so bad that Denver was willing to eat $80 million.
Well, and Fields was supposedly
and
done
Fields
as well.
was done. And Tomlin's done Pittsburgh's done nothing more than have a winning record with two quarterbacks that, again, at the end of last year you'd have said they didn't belong in the NFL. And so they've done it without really any wide receivers. They have a really good tight end. They have Pickens is fine. Their running backs have been pedestrian. Their offensive line's not great. And yet here we go. Pittsburgh's in a spot to win.
Speaking of here we go, we got to move it along. I think we covered the biggest surprise in the NFC. It's the Commanders. We don't have to go much further than that. How about disappointment in the AFC and NFC? And I'm going to put this caveat out there. We're going to call it the disappointment based on expectations. I'm not going to call it the disappointment based on emotion, because for me the biggest disappointment, but I'm loving it, is the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
that's
there's
true.
0% of me is disappointed that they're playing this badly on a weekly basis. Jerry's world, I don't want to be anywhere near it. I don't want to be part of it. I just can't believe that they're this bad. That roster was not this bad. It might be now. The only team I've ever seen Cooper Rush beat, oh, by the way, it was my favorite team, the Minnesota Vikings, on a Sunday night a couple years back. So I'm not disappointed, but looking at what they were supposed to do versus what they're doing, for me, it's the Cowboys.
Everybody loves it when it's the Cowboys and the Yankees. It's great when they lose, right?
But that's what happened after the World Series ended. They all took their Yankee jerseys off and put Cowboy jerseys on. Now I wonder what they're wearing. Go ahead.
Well, and I've been respectful and nice to Pitt because that was a great World Series.
I love Steve, and that's about it when it comes to the Yankees. I love my mother too, but the Yankees are still the Yankees.
I want to say the Bears, and I want to say it because that roster was so great. And really, if you look at it, Williams' numbers are actually just slightly behind last year's Fields' numbers. And yeah, the division is too good, right? But 4-4 and the way they're treading down, they're massive disappointment.
Yeah, they're in
I
trouble.
expected that they would maybe make noise. Now, you guys all picked not the Vikings to win the division.
Yeah.
We won't
I think
talk
we're going to be
about
right
that.
because I think we both picked Detroit.
Yeah, whatever. Point is, I thought that the Bears might make some noise.
Yeah, and see, I was never sold on it. I could even say that maybe the biggest disappointment would be the quarterback draft class not named Jaden Daniels, because the rest of them have kind of gone, well, okay, glad you drafted him. We'll see.
When you draft a quarterback out of college to be the savior, it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints because
Because 2-0 became fired coach.
and not just 2-0, but remember they beat the devil out of Dallas
Yeah.
when we thought Dallas was still pretty
And now
good.
we know what that victory provides in terms of value.
But they also had legitimate starters. They were paper thin, but their
Yep.
starting lineup was really pretty good with
Yep.
the quarterback and the wide receivers, and Kamara's had a good year. And that team just cratered. Like they're in the running for a top 3 draft pick. They were 2-0 with a bullet to start the game. So I think New Orleans.
AFC, Dave Cook, I know for you it's the Jets because you put them in the Super Bowl. I would think nationally most people can't argue. It depends on if you were still sold on Aaron Rodgers being able to do Aaron Rodgers things. I think we're finding out the answer is no. They've got a fabulous roster. What is it equating to?
Can I add one?
Yeah.
Because I think
For me, it's the Cincinnati Bengals besides the Jets.
Well, and so I'm going to do something similar. I think it's the Houston Texans. I thought the Houston Texans were going to be fabulous, and they're good, right? But I thought they were going to make that leap into the upper echelon, and they are not. They are not there.
What do you got in the AFC disappointment-wise? It's weird to ask Dave Hoops if anything's a disappointment because the guy doesn't have a negative emotion. Go ahead.
Well, there's a few teams. I think Indianapolis was a big disappointment, mainly due to their quarterback being such a dud. So there's that. And I think that Cleveland is a bit of a disappointment because I thought their defense could maybe offset Hopkins. Watson.
All right.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can overcome.
Yeah, exactly.
They sold their soul for the guy. They got
Well,
what they got.
I think things happen and they happen,
Yep.
but now maybe that team, that franchise can move on.
Yes.
No doubt. Again, he gives me that great segue. He ends his thoughts with move on. We're going to do just that. We're going to take a break. We are the Northland Sports Page. We are live at Hoops Brewing. Come on down. Still about a half an hour to enjoy us. We will talk to Vincey Glenn of the Vikings in about 15 minutes. Get his thoughts on Vikes Jaguars. That comes your way tomorrow at noon. Time for 2 more. Steve Patosha and myself follows Vikings fan line tomorrow as well. Speaking of time for 2 more, we got 2 segments to go. Stick around. We'll be right back.
And we'll watch them fall. They stand in the way of love, and we will smoke them all with an intellect and a savoir-faire.
My favorite song, introducing my favorite show. Judge me accordingly. My favorite show is my own. It's the Northland Sports Page. I am Brian Prudhomme. Dave Cook is getting his headset back on. We're getting ready to have some fun, play a little bit of trivia here at Hoops Brewing. God bless the University of North Dakota. Words I never thought I'd say, but their fans trickled in, and their fans want to play
Yes,
trivia.
they do.
So, again, thank you for being here. Here's how we're going to do this today. The winner of this contest, we're going to have a little one-on-one battle, trivia-wise. The winner of this contest is going to get a $70 gift card to Hoops Brewing. So if you're having a day worth of beer, $70 should cover you for the most part. The loser of this game is going to get a coupon probably worth about $7, and that's probably going to get you 1 free beer here. So that's still not a bad day's work.
So should we meet our contestants?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
so who do we have here?
I'm Katie.
All right, Katie. And then we have
Andrew.
Andrew. Okay, Andrew and Katie.
All right, so Katie versus Andrew. It'll be fun. Get your betting line, get your money line taken care of now. Do you have Katie? Do you have Andrew? So if you're just joining us, it's the 7th anniversary of our show. Obviously, you guys being in Duluth here this weekend, probably first-time listeners. But what we're going to do is we've got 7 questions in 2 different categories. 1 is sports. 2 is pop culture, a little bit of a hodgepodge. So how it's going to work is this. You guys are going to get a chance to pick questions. They get progressively harder, 1 through 7. The number of points you get for each question is the number of the question. So if you say, I want sports for 7, you get it right, you get 7 points. You say, I want pop culture for 1, you get it right, you get 1 point. So we're going to play through these 14 questions. You guys will have all your turns, and we'll see who wins by the end. Little hint for you, this game is called the Magnificent 7. A lot of the answers are going to have 7 related to them.
Make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
They easily could have said no, we were going to play anyway.
Here we go.
All right, real quick to see who goes first, play some rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
All right.
We'll go on 3.
I was
Okay.
gonna say,
There was a little bit of
that
confusion
wasn't
about
good.
that here.
Rock, paper,
So let's
scissors,
go.
shoot.
Let's go on 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. So, we'll do shoot.
Let's
okay.
give it ladies first.
Okay.
Katie did this better both
Yeah.
times.
This is executive decision for Brian. Okay.
All right, so ladies first. Katie gets to go first. I've got the sports. Dave has the pop culture questions, I believe. What would you like and for how many?
Hockey for 5.
So sports for 5.
Now I really like her because
All
that's
right.
exactly what I do.
Straight to hockey.
So
I love it.
I was going to say, unfortunately, this is not a hockey question.
Sorry, sports for 5.
So here's the 5-point question. The 1998 Minnesota Vikings are very memorable due to their high-powered offense, and you've got a crowd behind you, so you can confer as well. Their quarterback wore number 7. Who was he? I think the gentleman to my right might
She's
know.
throwing
looking
his
around
arms.
a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
You can get help from the audience. You
Yeah.
can phone a friend.
Phone a friend.
Uh-oh, we got people pondering. We got 5 seconds. We need an answer.
All right.
5, 4, 3,
1998.
2, 1.
Cunningham.
Randall Cunningham is correct.
There we go.
Katie's
All
got
right.
5 points. All right. Andrew, your first turn. Sports or pop culture, and for how many?
We'll do sports for 4.
Sports for 4. All right. The Minnesota Twins won Game 7 in 1991 thanks to 10 brilliant innings from which starting pitcher?
Joe Mauer.
Joe Mauer is not correct. Katie leads 5-0. Katie gets another turn. Chance to pad her lead. Sports or pop culture?
Sports for 6.
Dave, you get this segment off. Sports for 6. This, in my opinion, even though the 7-point question is the toughest, this one's probably the toughest. Question 6. The Dodgers just won the World Series, but they also beat the Minnesota Twins in Game 7 of a World Series. In what year?
Again, it involves 7.
But the answer doesn't.
Wow. Okay. There's something involves 7.
That hint was poor. Go ahead.
Thanks, Brian.
Game 7. That's where the 7.
Basically, the Minnesota Twins have lost a World Series. What year?
2007.
That is not correct. The correct answer was 1965.
I
So
threw you off. I'm sorry.
Katie still leads 5-0. Andrew gets another turn.
We'll do pop culture
Oh.
for 5.
Oh,
Yes.
Dave Cook sighting. Let's go.
All right. Pop culture.
For 5.
For 5. Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan are amongst those to play this famous character.
James Bond.
Finish the answer. We heard the other part of it, too.
007.
There you go.
007. All right.
So are we tied at 5?
We are.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Katie gets a turn. 5-5 tie. Yeah,
We're going
we're
through
gonna
all
do
7.
we're gonna do 14 questions
total.
here.
Yep.
Go.
Pop culture for 7.
Pop culture
All
for
right.
7. Dave's got that.
Here we are. Oh, man. This one, if they've been paying attention at all, they know this one.
You know, Brian Tim is here, by the way. The best public address announcer actually in the building. He
Yeah.
would be dominating this. He's yelling every answer so far.
The musical group, the White Stripes, are responsible for this famous song you hear all the time in sports arenas.
And it has a 7 theme to this trivia contest. See, that helped a little bit more.
7 Army Nation.
Oh,
do we give it to her?
We do, because
It's 7 Nation Army, but we'll give
Yep.
it to you.
All right,
All right.
there's
So,
7.
so Katie leads 12-5.
Brian Tim would have known that one.
Andrew's at Brian Tim knows everything. Andrew, go ahead.
We'll go sports for 7.
Sports for 7. Okay. In 2007, the Minnesota Vikings drafted which famous running back 7th overall?
Adrian Peterson.
Adrian Peterson is correct.
about that?
We are tied at 12. We got a barn burner. Katie's up.
Pop culture for 6.
All right. This man played the lead role in the movie 7 and was also a dinner guest for Thanksgiving on the TV show Friends.
Ooh, do we incorporate a new rule with the chance to steal? Because I think Andrew knows. We haven't done that before. I can't do it now, but. Oh, we got a little phone
Sounds
a
like
friend
something
action.
I would have
It was
said.
close. What do you got?
Brian P.
That'd be me.
Brad Pitt.
Oh,
Brad
there you go.
Pitt.
I was gonna say,
Brad
Brian P is me. I'm Brian
Oh,
Prudhomme.
I
but
love it. We're going there.
We're
Brad
gonna
Pitt.
we're gonna give her Brad Pitt. All right. So Katie's got the lead. Andrew probably disappointed in that ruling, but go ahead.
We'll do.
So what's left? What do you have
I got
left?
1, 2, 3, 4.
I do as well.
Okay, I'll do sports for 4.
All right, sports for 4. I lied. I've actually already asked the 4-point question. I've got 1, 2, and 3 left.
We'll do pop culture for 4.
All right. Superstition.
He needs the points.
Superstition says breaking a mirror or maybe standing under a ladder gives you this.
7 years bad luck.
That's
Oh,
correct.
win, 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 ding,
Kudos to
ding,
the Peanut
ding.
Gallery. They got that one in a heartbeat. Somebody's broken some mirrors over there.
Yeah.
All right, so we've both got 1, 2, and 3 left.
Hopefully this was year 8 for them, or you and I are in trouble.
Absolutely correct. So we've both got 1 point, 2
2, 3
point, and
left.
3 point left. What do you got for a score, Dave Cook?
I got 13, 18 for Katie, and 16
for Andrew.
for Andrew.
All right, Katie, you're up.
Pop culture for 3.
This might be simple. Yet, a very seldom seen combination will win you a jackpot on most slot machines.
So this seemingly,
Sevens.
yeah, I was gonna
Yep,
say
there we
this
are.
seemingly simple yet seldom seen combination will win you a jackpot on slot machines. 3 sevens is absolutely correct. All right, Andrew,
Sports for 3.
you need to run a table, my friend. All right, question 3: the Minnesota Wild have won 2 Game 7s against the same team, thanks to Andrew Brunette and Mikhail Granlund. What team have they beaten twice in Game 7?
Colorado Avalanche.
That didn't even take any thought. Give him 3 points. Brian, you got to make questions harder, is what that told me. 3 points for Andrew.
So sports for 3.
I've got 2 and 1
2.
left, and you've got 1, 2, and 3 left.
No, I have. We both.
All right,
have
so we
one,
both
two.
got 1 point and 2 point questions.
Sports for 2.
Sports for 2. The Minnesota Timberwolves had a playoff run last season, and one of their series went 7 games. They won. Who'd they beat? That is a correct answer. I speak sarcasm with the best of them. The other team is correct. I don't know who he is, but give him 2 points.
That's my father.
Bob for the win. Oh, Katie's dad for the win. We'll find out who he's cheering for here, but Katie's dad for the win.
DJ, basketball dude?
Who did they win a series against in 7 games during the playoffs last season?
year.
Dallas.
That is incorrect. I wish they would have. They beat the Denver Nuggets. Door is open for
Door
Andrew.
is open.
Pop culture for 2.
This was the main competitor for Sprite in the 1980s. Also a favorite game in elementary school classrooms.
The main competition for Sprite in the 1980s. The theme is
7 Up.
7. Yes,
7 Up.
sir.
There we are.
All right, so you've got a pair of 1 point questions left. Sports or pop culture?
Sports.
Sports for 1. I'll give you another hint, too. What? This answer was already said in this game. The Minnesota-born number 7 that was just inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame is who?
Joe Mauer.
It is. 1 point for Katie.
All right, last question on the board. Here we go. This Minnesota-born musician had a hit song in 1992 simply called 7.
Prince.
Bingo.
All right.
Andrew's my new best friend with how quick he got that. That's my favorite song of all time. All right, so we've got tabulations. Your final score is...
Dave, are you good at math?
Yeah.
He's better at
Okay,
writing
'cause,
things
yeah.
down than I am. Yeah, I was doing so well, like 3 questions in.
Where are we at?
All right, so
Double
we've got...
check me.
Do we have a tie?
That's what it looks like.
Ooh.
7, 10.
All right.
12.
Well,
We're going to have everybody
we-
wager for a
12.
Wait
final
a minute.
question?
We became prepared
Yep.
for this.
We
Okay.
got one.
So what are we
so
doing?
it's going to be a matter of who can name the most, and if you tie, are you guys here together? Oh, well, you might be by the end of this.
Whoa.
I'm Chuck Woolery, back with 2 and 2. So here's my tiebreaker question. Thank goodness for my boss, Nick Stoltman, going, you never know, just bring a tiebreaker. So the final question to break the tie is this, and you'll both get a shot at it. Snow White had 7 dwarfs. Name them all.
Sleepy. Dopey. Doc. Grumpy. Happy. Sneezy. And
The last one's the toughest one. 5 seconds.
Rudolph.
Stop helping.
Sorry.
Which that doesn't help. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
sleep. Shorty.
She got
Shorty.
I like that
that
answer.
one. That's awesome.
It's not right, but it makes sense that would be called Shorty. I get that.
So you
all
got
right, she got
6?
6.
Okay.
Andrew gets a shot at it. Snow White had 7 dwarfs for $70 in gift cards to hear. Name them all. Start again and name them all.
Bridie's not even looking at you.
Sleepy.
That's 1.
Happy.
That's 2.
Grumpy.
That's 3.
Sneezy.
That's 4.
Dopey.
That's 5.
Doc.
That's 6. You're going to miss the same one, aren't you?
And
That is correct. Katie contributes. It's not Shorty.
Droopy.
No, it's not, but my hopes for this game are getting there. Anybody from the Peanut Gallery know the 7th one? It is.
Oh, bashful. Okay.
All right, so the tiebreaker now gets decided this way. Are you giving it to Katie or Andrew?
Wow.
Oh, no pressure there.
We're going to, friendships are on the line. All right. I'll tell you what. We'll see if we can split this down the middle. You guys are both awesome. We've got $77 in total gift cards to here. Let's split them between you. Catch up with me in 15 minutes. We'll take care of it.
Nice work. Thank you guys.
Big round of
Thank you.
applause
Thank
for
you.
Katie and Andrew.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Thanks for playing some trivia. Nothing trivial about the Minnesota Vikings. We talk about their game with Jacksonville with Vince Glenn, and we come back. Having some fun here at Hoops Brewing. Little 7-style trivia. The Magnificent 7. The Magnificent 2 were Katie and Andrew.
Absolutely.
The Magnificent 2 right here. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook. We will be right back. Final segment of the day. Stay with us. Back here on the Northland Sports Page, 7th anniversary show about to come to a close here at Hoops Brewing. Big time shout out to our contestants today on the Magnificent 7 trivia. Katie and Andrew both played very well. In fact, so well we didn't get a winner.
No.
Little did we know that Bashful, he was too shy. Nobody remembered him as a dwarf. So the tiebreaker
very
never
impressive.
got broken. So we're going to divvy it up, and we're going to do two $35 gift cards here to Hoops Brewing. So again, good times. I think that game or games of that ilk will have to make another appearance.
I think so. I think that's a really good live game. I think that's, we
Not
should
bad for
continue to
something
do
I
that.
made up on Thursday morning.
Not too bad at all.
Speaking of something we don't make up at all, though, it's our great sponsors. Let's give them one more shout out. We got Vince Glenn on the line, part of Drawing Lines, courtesy of Roll Architecture Studio. That is sponsor number 1. We're at Hoops Brewing. That is sponsor number 2. I'll let Dave Cook do the rest.
ABS Auto Solutions, Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, Kraus Heating and Cooling, York Carrier, HVAC, authorized dealer. Assisted Living Locators. You can reach them at www.assistedlivinglocators.org/Duluth. Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies. The Blackwoods Group, including their locations in Proctor and in Two Harbors, the location on London Road and Tavern on the Hill. Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance. Comfort Systems of Duluth. Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai. And Mount Royal Bottle Shop.
And again, Mount Royal Bottle Shop, a couple specials in conjunction with Hoops Brewing for the weekend and for the week. In honor of our 7th anniversary, 7% off all your Hoops products at Mount Royal Bottle Shop for this week. And then again, every Saturday with our show here at the Northland Sports Page. Go online at MountRoyalBottleShop.org. That's the Mount Royal Bottle Shop website. Enter the online code RADIO. The online promo code is RADIO, and you will get 10% off all of your Hoops Brewing products, courtesy of our friends at Mount Royal Bottle Shop. Speaking of our friends, this might be the best friend of the show over 7 years to come from the land of purple. Vince Glenn is our favorite Viking safety, and he is with us again. He's all part of the Drawing Line segment. That's courtesy of Roll Architecture Studio. So Vince Glenn, Viking safety, you are speaking to a brewery, Hoops Brewing here in Duluth. Good to have you by phone no matter where we are. You've been with us for the bulk of this 7 years as we celebrate our 7th anniversary here today.
Well, congratulations on 7 years, guys. I really appreciate being a part of this. And tell the manager or the owner of Hoops Brewery, I need a T-shirt in large. I need to represent.
I think we can make that happen, but I'll tell you this, Vince, you've got a lot of great jerseys from your Vikings days, your Chargers days. The brewery that I'm in right now here at Hoops, I'm looking at a plethora of framed jerseys up on the wall. We need a Vince Glenn jersey up on the wall. I'll swap you that for some Hoops apparel, no problem.
I'll tell you what, it'll be there by Tuesday.
All right, we will try to make that happen.
Yeah, we'll get it done.
Speaking of trying to make things happen, the Minnesota Vikings will try to go to 7-2, take a trip to Jacksonville to do it. It looks like they're going to be facing Mac Jones instead of Trevor Lawrence. Mac Jones is not a great quarterback. You could argue Trevor Lawrence is not a great quarterback. I also talked about preparation and knowing who you're preparing for. What does that do to a defense, somebody who's played defense as well as you have over the years, maybe not knowing who you're preparing for or having that switch in the middle of the week?
I think I'll start with this. I think Mac Jones can be a great quarterback in the right system. But here's the thing. They didn't think Sam Darnold was a great quarterback either. He played 4 teams before he's 28. So now he's leading the Vikings and playing great. So, you can't judge guys by the past. You got to take every game as an individual. And remember, they're pros. And they try to play at a high level every week. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So when you have guys like that, you got to be very careful how you approach it and make sure you do your job and pay attention to your detail and things will work out.
Hey, Vince, one of the questions I had, and of course we try to split fan ball from football. I want, looking at it from a player's point of view, somebody like Mac Jones, who came in with all the hoopla, first-round draft pick, ended up in a weird situation and just kind of fell off, right? What does a player have to do to regain some of that mojo that got them into the first round, into the top half of the first round as a player? What do they got to do to regain some of that confidence or mojo or whatever you want to call it to again be an NFL level player?
I think being in the right system with the right organization and around the right players and coaches, that's going to help you mature off the field as well as on the field.
Sure.
Everybody keeps talking about on the field, on the field, on the field. But if your life isn't right off the field, your on the field productivity is going to probably be bad. So having the right chemistry makeup, and you don't get to choose. When you're a high round draft choice, you don't get to choose who you go play for. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
you're probably going to go play for somebody you optimistically wouldn't rather choose, but you're glad to be in the league and that they believe in you and gave you opportunity. You hope it works out, but you know, it's an individual thing, man. It's really not a consensus thing of what does one player have to do. You have to be in the right situation and around the right people.
Vency, the Vikings game ended last Sunday about 10:30 in the evening, and I've been wanting to talk to you about it since. In fact, we probably did a couple of times, but we haven't had a chance to do it publicly. I wanted to talk to you because I captioned the victory and had conversations with many people by saying ugly wins are still wins. And I think that's valid, but you being a defensive player, the defense was very good. How do you categorize a win like last Sunday night? The easy answer is it's a win, and that's what matters. But in terms of building off something, what did you see last Sunday night that's positive for the Vikings?
That they won.
That's it, right?
Yeah, man. I don't know what kind of fan would be mad about winning a game.
Never apologize for winning, right?
You can nitpick any week, but being 6-2 at the halfway point ain't a bad thing. So when you sit there and you're complaining, you're nitpicking because the defense is playing good, what do you expect? You got a backup quarterback that's leading you guys into first or second place in the division, a good chance to be in first place halfway through, and you're complaining that they're not doing what? Winning? No, they're winning.
Yeah, nothing to complain about in terms of the end result. I want to talk about the schedule because they did win last Sunday night, and that's the only home game they have for the month of November. And pundits love to look at that and say, geez, a 3-game road trip in the NFL, that's just not something that's heard of very often. But then coaches will tell you, I like my team on the road. We're always together. I know what they're doing. We can do better that way. What's your take on road versus home when it's a long stretch like that?
It's always better to play at home because you just eliminates knowing that you don't have to travel. You don't have to do certain things. So the less on your plate, the better off you are to be able to focus on what's in front of you. But when you know you got to travel, you got to prepare. Because the way you prepare for traveling is different than the way you prepare for at home. Especially if I'm traveling to a loud stadium like Seattle or somewhere. All week in practice, we're going to have megaphones or whatever that makes the noise loud. Well, communication is very critical with hands and knowing what you're doing. So, but at home games, you don't have to worry about that because they're not going to cheer when the offense is on the field loud, and they're going to cheer louder when the defense is. So you don't have to worry about little things like that.
Hey, Vency, when over the last couple of games, the Vikings defense has kind of struggled giving up plays in the middle of the field, and when you as a defense, when you kind of self-scout and you see issues like that, how does a defense take care of issues that keep happening? Is it a practice thing? Is it a mindset thing? Is it holding each other accountable? How from the inside? Because from the outside, we say, just don't let them run the football there anymore, right? How does a defense address those situations?
It's all about game planning and getting mixed matches, just like offensive guys use motion and different things to try to get one-on-ones with certain individuals and things like that. So it's a week-to-week thing, but the more important thing, you just keep focusing, getting off the field on third down.
Sure.
Turnovers, eliminating mental mistakes. These teams are good. They're going to find a way to move the ball. These athletes are great in the pros. So, that's going to happen. But as long as you're giving your offense a chance to stay in the game and win games, that's all you ask for as a defense. And that's all our offense would ask of you. Just keep us in the game. and we'll score the points.
Vency, I know you prefer talking about teams versus individuals, but this individual plays your position. Harrison Smith continues to play at a high level despite aging. To me, he's getting better. He's a little bit like a fine wine. How do you critique his play so far, even though I know you don't like to do individual players?
No, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of his. I think that his coordinators have found a very, very unique way of getting them involved in a lot of different schematics. So you really don't know where he's not a true free safety, but he knows his responsibilities and knows the field and know where he needs to be to make plays. And, I always say fine wine is great, and I had my best season statistically across the board my last year in the league with the Giants. So, when you get smarter, you don't have to work as hard, maybe physically on your body, but mentally the game comes a little easier because you're used to seeing offensive coordinators, used to seeing seeing these different quarterbacks. So you know what to expect from coordinators that you play against for over 10 years. You know what kind of offense they run. You know how they like to attack. So it's a plus to him. He's a big part of the defense, and he's a great Viking.
All right, Vincent, we got 1 minute to go, and we were joking about this via text together earlier in the week. You don't love giving scores, but when you do it well. You almost got the Vikes-Colts score dead on. So let's leave the folks at the brewery with this thought. Vikes-Jaguars tomorrow. I'm going to say Vikes win. I hope you do too. By how much? Give me a score.
34-14, 17, 34-17, maybe.
A multi-score win with 30-plus from the offense or maybe a defensive touchdown. We'll take that. I'll tell you what, having you on our show has been a defensive touchdown for the bulk of 7 years. Vency Glenn, thank you very much. We'll talk again next Saturday.
I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you guys. Be safe. All right.
You as well. That's Vency Glenn, and that's our show. That is the Northland Sports Page 7th anniversary special. Round of applause for everybody that was here participating today. Big shout-out to Katie and Andrew again as well, playing some trivia. Thank you to Dave Hoops. Thank you to Vency Glenn. Thank you to Katie and Andrew. And Dave Cook, thank you very much. Nick Stoltman making it all happen.
Happy
That's my thank yous for the
Brian.
day. Happy anniversary to you. Probably the last minute we're together on our anniversary today.
Yeah, right.
We are out of here. We'll talk to you next Saturday. Time for 2 more tomorrow. Steve Patosha, myself. We follow Vikings fan line. I'll tell you this much. We better follow a Vikings win. Skol. We'll talk to you next Saturday.
Sometimes